I'm your host, Eric Mika, joined by TJ Hawes. Ryan, I saw you smile at the name of the show. I feel like that means you agree with
No.
the appropriate level.
Like,
No,
these guys are so trash. They're so
no,
washed up.
it just made me chuckle.
Yeah, there we go. That's
I'm
good.
a washed up athlete myself, so I can't. We're all the same way, so it's all good.
Beautiful. I mean, that's not why we had you on the show, but I mean, I guess it works on many levels then. Well, today we're joined by college basketball analyst Ryan Hammer. Ryan is esteemed in the world of college athletics for inventing the trapezoid of excellence. That's how I came across him. I thought it was super cool. I was like, this guy is a data geek, in the nicest way possible. He knows his stuff inside and out. He's posted a bunch about BYU and the Big 12 recently. So I was like, man, let's get him on the show. Ryan, thank you for being here. If you want to maybe, for those that don't know you, explain the trapezoid of excellence and maybe more just kind of where this passion for college basketball and just basketball in general came from. Just give some quick context and then we'll jump into this thing.
Yeah. I appreciate having you on. I know we've been tapped in with each other for a little while.
Yeah.
And I feel like this has been leading up to the moment like this.
I love it.
First of many, but no, I'm a soccer player first. I don't think people know that very much about me. Played all throughout college and afterwards, semi-pro and stuff. But big basketball fan ever since I was like 8 or 9, going down to Maryland where my brother went to watch a lot of Maryland ACC games. Jimmer and Steph were playing and stuff like that. And fell in love with the sport, had a big appreciation for it, and started to learn a lot when I was in college and afterwards. Trapezoid is a whole theoretical thing based on pace, not playing too slow or too fast, and it's evidently worked and helped a lot of people win their bracket pools and stuff. And so people resonate that with me a lot, which is fine, but I am more than that. Big film guy also. I can hoop too a little bit recreationally and stuff. I take pride in that stuff too. So
that's awesome. Well, I again, I appreciate you for coming on here. I think, you started giving a couple shout outs to BYU and Yegor and you got the Jimmer jersey behind you in some of your sets. So I was like, this guy, he needs to be on the show. Jumping into it, the main reason, we were messaging back and forth to have you on here was to talk about this Big 12 schedule release. Just in general as a league, I'd like to hear kind of your take on the Big 12's ascension and BYU's ability to slowly climb those ranks with KY. What you think about, their home and aways with Texas Tech and Arizona, just whatever comes to mind in the world of Big 12 and BYU, go.
Yeah, no, let me tell you this. I'm a Big 12 basketball stan. I always have been. The SEC was ridiculous last year. Give them their flowers where it's due. I've always been the Big 12 is the go to basketball conference and number one in the country. Last year is obviously tough, but for the majority of the last decade plus, it really has been, especially when you bring in teams like Arizona, obviously, and BYU and et cetera and stuff like that. It helps a pretty decent amount.
Yeah.
I thought their schedule release was pretty good. I thought they got a couple, like you said, Arizona, Texas Tech. I know they have Houston, Iowa State, or home. Sorry, I think they have Kansas away. So I feel like it balances out pretty well. And honestly, I don't overthink like a lot of fans. I think overthink the conference schedule. I think the timing of the games is more important than where you're playing and who you're playing where, and home versus away or both and stuff like that. Because like in the Big 12 is a great example. You're going to play 9 ranked teams in the year at some point, basically, or give or take, whatever that is. So you just got to go out, build your team the best way, and then nothing else really matters. So
yeah.
When you say timing, are you saying just like February versus beginning of January type stuff? Is that what you're saying?
That, and also like if you're playing Kansas and Houston back to back, that's not ideal, obviously, because you lose a tough game on Wednesday and then all of a sudden Saturday you're like, well, now we have to go at Texas Tech or we have to host Houston. You're like,
sure,
that's not fun. So a little bit of both, and obviously the later in the year things, I think it's dependent on how you do in the out of conference too, with what you want, right? You might want the good teams early on to get you kind of ready. You might want them sporadic. You might want them later in the year to get you ready for postseason play and stuff. But depends how the out of conference goes, which is also a fun one for BYU. So
yeah, sure. Fun one for BYU. And we had Chris Burgess on here a couple weeks ago to talk about it. We met with their data analytics guy on another project that we're doing, and both of them just talked a lot about kind of gaming the non-conference schedule, because they're like looking at Arizona, who they tied with, but then got a worse seed, and same with Kentucky. Obviously, it's apples and oranges because they're in the SEC, but they went 11-9. But then they just kind of studied all these higher seeds preseason, non-conference, even if they didn't do that well. Just the strength of schedule ended up being kind of a big factor. And who knows, maybe that's a moving target, but that's what he mentioned was something that was circled for them as a staff about, let's get a higher strength of schedule because we know we're going to do well in the Big 12, but it's kind of such a juggernaut. It's hard to predict. So let's stack up as many, big games as we can early on. They did that really well. I totally agree. I think fans read into, schedule a little bit too much. They love finding narratives and storylines that probably don't exist, but there are a couple kind of natural ones, non-conference and conference for BYU. AJ going back to the Garden, playing against UConn, like that's going to be a big one. I just see that, all the headlines for that are going to be huge. Another one is, playing against Kansas, the number 1 and 2 guys going against each other as a, hopefully more, I don't know, experienced and insightful like fan than most. Like those are exciting for me. Are there any that you would have circled if you are a BYU fan without reading too much into it?
Yeah, and I think also like it's the off season, so like fans just want.
Yeah. What is there to talk about,
too.
right?
Football's not even close either. So like
right.
They really just want like they need something, right? A lot of people that are
sure.
So my brother, by the way, I mentioned that I grew up visiting him in Maryland. He's a message board geek, I call him. So he's on like all the Reddit message boards with other Maryland fans. He's one of those fans. It's like, you see the Big Ten schedule list? I'm like, I literally don't care. I literally don't care.
That's funny. No, but, just tell him to go check out Cougar Board. It's the most toxic place on earth. It's like where just the nastiest fans go and just
I get it.
Hypotheticals all day, every day.
That.
Yeah.
You'd never expect that from BYU fans, not from the outside at least.
For sure.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of exciting games. The Kansas one with Darren Peterson is going to be awesome, and AJ has looked unbelievable this week also under 19s camp at USA and stuff. But the Texas Tech games I'm really looking at also because they're going to be much better than a lot of people think. They're getting like some borderline top 10, mostly top 15 love, but I think they could be a national title contender. And obviously Houston's going to be number 1 team in the country probably to start the year. So that one at home is going to be really interesting to watch to see how the KY style, I think, is much more offensive. He's an NBA offensive coordinator, we'll call him, right? What he was with the Suns. So watching them play Houston, and especially at home where you kind of can drown out the red Fertitta noise a little bit will be interesting.
Yeah, Ryan, you mentioned, AJ and the U19 team. Fill us in a little bit on how you thought he did this last weekend. And kind of how you see that team doing and AJ's role and just, fill us all in with all of that.
Yeah, he's ridiculous, honestly. Every time I see something more with him, like this kid is actually insane. Like it is so wild to me. I remember Cooper Flagg playing against before the Olympics last year, playing with the first team, their US team or company, whatever it was. And everyone was like, oh, this kid is ridiculous. Like he's 17 at the time, I think he was, like ready to play in the NBA today. And now here he is now. I see something similar. Obviously it's U19. He's playing against Koa and Michael Brown, like guys that are his own age, but he's so clearly the alpha, which I think is going to be huge for him because he's going to be the alpha. Like Richie is awesome. Rob Wright's a really good playmaker. There's a bunch of really good guys that are going to be on this team for BYU, but AJ is going to have to be the alpha, especially at some point and majority of times in the year for them to be able to reach their ceiling. So having him have the chance to do that on the biggest level that he can right now, I think is going to be big.
Yeah, I was out there, been working with Team USA for about 5 years now. So I was part of the selection committee, which is a great story because it was, man, the staff going to Switzerland is Shrewsbury from Notre Dame, McCaslin from Texas Tech, head coach, obviously, Tommy Lloyd and some of his guys from Arizona. And then court coaches were Nate Oates, Mark Pope, Damon Stoudemire, and Hubert Davis. And then the selection, it just like cracks me up. The selection committee is head coach from Yale, head coach from TCU, head coach from Boise State, head coach from Pitt, and then Eric Mika. It was like everyone's looking around like, who is this guy? I'm in the back of the room. Every time I piped up, it's like, talk about imposter syndrome, bro. Like I'm in the back, and these are like, who is this guy? But it was a lot of fun. You know, I love everything that USA does and everything that they stand for. So I was just part of getting it from 31 to 18, which is, you know, near impossible task. I've told everyone in the last 48 hours or 24 hours, whatever, that it's, to me, there was kind of a class of its own in AJ, Koa Pete, and Mikael Brown. Like those guys just looked above and beyond. Like you look at them and you're like, holy cow, these are men among boys. And then even within that group, AJ was head and shoulders above those guys, which is, crazy, right? Like the last 2 minutes, of this scrimmage that nobody really cares about. AJ's got the #1 ranking. I think ESPN put out an awesome blurb that summarized it really well, which was, he's got nothing to prove. He's a #1 player, probably #1 draft pick, all the NIL money in the world. These scrimmages don't really matter because it's still a group of 31. He's made the team already. And he just like yelling at his team to press full court, gets the steal, gets the tip, hits 3 threes. Like it was absurd. And as someone who probably didn't watch him as much as the average BYU fan, especially after he committed, I didn't realize, maybe he had a great shooting day, but the whole weekend he was shooting the ball really, really well, which is, you think those guys are, it's like, oh yeah, like he's a great athlete. He's going to get to the rim. He's going to do a bit of everything. But where he might nudge Cooper is the shooting. If he's shooting as consistently as he was over the weekend, it's like, it's unbelievable. One of the coaches on the committee, like one play into scrimmage, looked at me, was like, he kind of looks like LeBron, like a lot looks like LeBron. Like it's crazy. Like he blocked a shot, he rebounded, he pushed in transition, he dished. The next play, he stole it and dunked it. Like it's just crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, he's what. Literally, I told you, like every time I see him do anything, I'm like, this guy is so like physically and talent wise matured beyond his age, and like he is absolutely ridiculous. I just had a conversation with someone about Cooper Flag is like doing videos and stuff, but we're talking about how the level of prospect that Cooper is compared to past college players, especially Zion and AD, all these guys. I'm like, I'm taking Cooper over a lot of these guys. And then off camera, we're talking about it. And I was like, we're going to do this again next year. And we're going to go back even further, like whatever it was. Like he really is that ridiculous. He's so well put together. And like the intensity is something that I don't want to compare just to Cooper Flag the entire time, but it's the same kind of thing when you have a guy that's so big and so commanding, but they have that intellectual piece and they're like just locked in all the time. Like it's a LeBron factor. We'll call it a LeBron factor.
And not to beat a dead horse, but what I also see about LeBron having, such an incredible career, or any of these like greats, right? TJ's more of an MJ guy. That's a conversation for another time. But any of these guys, they just have like their emotional intelligence and awareness and you said it, just basketball IQ is off the charts, right? And that was another thing, kind of being so close to him and then those other guys that I kind of listed. And honestly, everyone that makes that team, I think it's like they put up some of the numbers in our first meeting, and it's like 68% of the guys that make this team will be drafted. And it's great. Like 80% of those will be first round, and it's like 50% of those are top 10. It's absurd numbers, right? So they all have this high court and off court intelligence, and AJ's right up there with him. Like you could just tell he's a good teammate. He's aware of his surroundings. I saw a couple interviews with him, and he just like skirts the right questions, like always finds a way to push it off to someone else, So we're super, super excited about him. There's one comment, and then we want to move on from AJ and U19. Christopher Jensen asks, what's the craziest play you've seen out of AJ? I want to throw that at you, Ryan. I don't know if one comes to mind, one that impressed you the most.
There's got to be some like EYBL stuff I can't think of the top of my head. The one I saw today was so wild though. I think it might have been a carry, but he like hezzy into he hezzy cross and then just run straight to the rack. Like stuff like that is where I'm like, oh good lord, like this guy's ridiculous. But it might have been a carry, but I'll go with that one for now.
It was for sure a carry, but it looked really, really good. If it was me, it would have looked bad. So yeah.
That was a sweet play. Is that the one where he just like one hand held, didn't even bring it to his other arm, just held it out like
so Dr. fluid, J. So natural. It's crazy.
Yeah. TJ used to look like that. Actually, that's the crazy thing. It's just Instagram wasn't as big of a thing, and
I know if we really dug through like our old phones before iPhones, we could find all types of stuff.
Yeah, I'm sure.
From me and Eric.
All our envies and the Blackberries. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, some crazy stuff on there. Okay, well, we wanted to also hear your take on how Yegor's doing in the draft, filling Cougar Nation on his progress and what things are looking like, and maybe some good fits for him, and just overall how his progress is going.
Yeah, no. I know teams are very high on him for the most part. He just like I like him. There's like 4 or 5 prospects at the top in the first round that are like very polarizing, like him, Jace Richardson, Ace Bailey, Colin Murray Bulls, all for very obvious reasons. I think Yegor not having a consistent shot all year and that kind of being a little shaky, and him being very on and off, especially early on. I think it was like conference play versus the better teams. I think Houston was one of the games where like he really struggled. He looked a lot better, in my opinion, later in the year versus the better teams. He's killed it in workouts. This has been huge for him. And when you think of a guy who's 6'9" and is literally a forward, but he plays a good point guard, like he's gonna kill it in workouts. He's gonna kill in the draft process. I think if he never came to college, he would be a consensus top 5 pick, no matter what his stats were in Europe, because people like to granularly look at the things that he's doing in college. I think there'd be more perceived risk with that, which would be fair. But I think he's going to be good. When you look at the guys like Franz Wagner is the top of the scale and Anthony Black is towards the bottom of the scale. Like he's somewhere in there, could be top, bottom, whatever. But those jumbo playmakers that can fill in at the 1, they can be a 3 and be a connector or secondary playmaker. And maybe the 1 guard is more of a scorer or something like that. Like the versatility is something that I know teams love a lot. And when you look at the teams in the lottery, everybody needs playmakers. When I look at teams like the Nets and the Raptors that are kind of like all over the place and they could just go wherever they want. And Raptors definitely thrive off that versatility, and they have in their development in the last like decade or so. Those are a couple of teams that I really like. I think the Blazers could be a big one also. I know Schmidt's out there and they're heavy on versatility and stuff like that. So
something that like there's no question here, just like a thought. I'll never understand, what you just said. If he never came to college, he'd be a consensus top 5, right? Like, but because he came to college and exposed himself and jumped into this world that's completely different from his comfort zone and where he was, it's like he drops, right? And hopefully he doesn't drop more than what you had him. I think on your latest draft board was 11, right? But I just think that's so crazy. And having played for Ignite, I saw that both years I was there, like Modest Buzelis came in as maybe not consensus, but people said he'd be the number 1, maybe 2. And then he ended up dropping to 11, and some guys had him later, right? Until he went into his workouts. And it just kind of made no sense to me. Like this guy just played against grown men, started the year hurt, but then like you could really see the progression in the steps. So it's just always interesting to me. I'll never fully understand. I think it's probably just, every organization is a little bit different, the way they structure and value their own trapezoids of excellence, right? Like they have these data strategies that maybe we'll never understand, but I think that's so crazy that he's top 5 and then he comes and struggles a little bit at times. You see his weaknesses, but it's like, what you thought he was perfect when he was at Real Madrid? Like that makes no sense. It's
ridiculous.
So
it is ridiculous. People just, the idea of him, it stays as more of an idea and a theory. Like if he's still in Europe, where you're like, oh, like Nolan Traore is a good example. Guys like that, they're like, oh, you know what? Like he's playing international. Like those things are fixable once you bring him over to the States, where I think guys that play internationally and then come in to play college have even more understanding of like diversity of the game and different styles and stuff like that. And I think that's even better. Like Jeremy Sohan hasn't been like a superstar in the NBA, but I remember he's from Poland. He grew up in England and then he came over to Baylor. So like similar, where in the Big 12, and he has kind of fits a similar kind of mold if you want to think that way. But I liked that idea of diversity. I know guys that will always speak to that being a strength.
Yeah, no, that's an excellent point. All right. Well, last question. We kind of wanted to just take your, last minute and a half, your thoughts on everything changes July 1st. We have our opinions on that. I think the general public has been somewhat aware of this change, and different schools are educating their fans to different levels. But for the fans that do understand what's happening, and maybe we can jump in more detail once you leave. TJ and I have this working theory, which is this all just means nothing, right? Like it's just going to go back to schools giving people bags of money under the table. I don't know if you've read a bunch or had enough conversations to have any kind of a theory that goes against that. But yeah, I just want to know your thoughts on these changes. What do you think it means for college basketball? What does college basketball and college sports, obviously as a whole, look like in 5 years because of these things?
Yeah, and honestly, the 5-year thing is a good point. I think short term it does nothing. Where short term, every school is allowed to spend up to $20.5 million for all of athletics, but it's based on revenue. So they're going to dump the money into football and basketball schools will go into basketball and football, vice versa. But the small schools aren't going to have $20.5 million from revenue to spend that. So the resource gap is still a problem short term. Okay, that solves nothing. Check one. It is good that there is some kind of standard and some kind of regulation, because that sets the table for other regulations like a CBA in basketball and football, a collective bargaining agreement. For anyone that doesn't understand that, basically the players can unionize because they're treated as professionals now. And then beyond that, you can hope for a salary cap, like hard salary cap and a salary floor, which I don't know if that's going to happen in 5 years. Maybe it's 10 years. Maybe it's never to that strong of a thing, but that's how you get better parity. Because I think that's the big concern for a majority of college sports fans is, hey, like Murray State can't compete with BYU and the NIL money when AJ DeBance is getting $8 million a year. Like, what are we supposed to do here? So I think the salary cap and floor, if it's reasonable, will keep everyone in that range together. That's kind of what this sets the premise for. And I guess it's still a pipe dream, I would say right now. But short term, it's not going to change much. Like you said, they have a cap that the schools can pay. But if a school has a donor, they're going to be seen as a donor, and they're just going to make them do some random BS marketing deal that makes it authentic NIL deal on top of what they're already getting from that $20.5 million. So, yeah, you're so right about that.
I agree. I just think like whatever the system is, I've heard Deloitte is going to be the third party handling all that. Anything over $600, I'm like, there's like thousands and thousands and thousands of deals. Yeah. Like it's going to be, you're going to go look at every single one. Like you're just the new IRS. Like it's just crazy. There's no way. There's no way.
They're going to go on everyone's Instagram and be like, you got paid $1,000. Right. Did you post an Instagram for this small mom and pop coffee shop? Exactly. No, you're getting fried, and they're never going to do anything to the big deals ever.
No, so. They never will.
Yeah. That will be like, if they come down hard on one of the big schools, then it will be like, okay, yeah, this is for real, but they never have ever in the history of sports. It's just like those guys can get away with whatever they want. So it's going to be interesting.
Hey, well, Ryan, we went over our 20-minute limit. Thank you so much for joining. This is so great, so insightful for our fans. I've been a big fan. It's been great getting to know you. So making this official was big time. Thanks for being here.
Of course, I appreciate you. I'm coming out to Provo this year. I've already promised Burgess and a couple of people on staff. I'm coming.
Please do. Right? Okay. Well, I'm sure they'll take care of you, but let's make sure that we have all the restaurants set. We got it all down packed. There's some passionate fans for food, as big of BYU fans. They might even be bigger foodies. So we'll have that all set. Thanks for being here, brother.
Appreciate y'all. See ya.
All right. What do we think? He's way smarter than you, Tej. That's all I have to say.
He is. I just love guys that are just like he's just a fan of the game.
Yep.
Like I love listening to that stuff because there's not a whole ton of like bias with him. It's just like,
for sure,
this guy's playing well. This team's doing this. This team's doing that. They're recruiting these guys. Like they're going to be good. This schedule's tough. And it's just like, I just am fascinated and I love listening to that type of stuff. It's super interesting.
No, you can tell he loves it. I love that he's such a big fan of the Big 12. Obviously, that's great for us, because he's got some really good.
I am too. I think the Big 12 is tough. I think it's tough, and I think it's only getting more challenging.
Yeah. What excites you about between everything we've talked about over the weekend? I don't want to I said beat a dead horse, but again, just keep harping on this AJ thing, but it was just kind of eye-opening for me. And that's knowing what people think of him and the relationships in the NBA he has and mock drafts where he could have jumped a year. I know how good he is. And then seeing him against this level of competition just kind of blew me away, hearing, what the coaches in the back room after each workout were saying and then hearing Ryan, hearing all the same things, right? What's the thing that excites you the most about all that?
Well, a couple things there. I feel like you mentioned earlier, the coaches that are there are some of the best coaches in the whole country. And to hear you say in the back rooms, they're just all, raving about AJ and what he can do. It's that is super cool to me. And that says a lot about his game and how he handles himself on and off the floor and all that stuff. But also, I think people recognize this, but like that U19 team, that camp that you were just at is full of, the best players in the country in his class.
Right.
Like, and to hear that he just rises above, like it's clear that he's the big dog there. Like, that's pretty fun. Like, that's not easy to come into that weekend and be like, man, I'm just the best guy here. Like, I just dominated this weekend. And so to hear like he's going against the best competition, it's like it's very clear he's the creme de la creme, And
nice little French action there.
Yeah, we have to throw it in there. So
I think
that's
right
really exciting to me.
And again, just highlighting this one more time, then we can move on. But like, just the off the court stuff is kind of what blows me away too, because like I've been around like the biggest names, and you get guys that are that competitive on the court all the time, not all the time, but a lot, right? Like, I don't want to name names, but like even when I was on the select team with Team USA, like you had all NBA guys and you got on the court and they were psychos, right? Like we got to Abu Dhabi, like touchdown, had a practice that evening, come flying in from Spain. That's a long flight. And kind of similar to this AJ, running off 11 points, taking over. Ant scored like 20 straight. And he dunked on Jaren Jackson Jr. He was hitting off the glass.
Dunked on you.
He did not dunk on me because I wasn't in. I was watching.
Still dunked on you somehow.
I was talking all the smack for him, and everyone's like, "Who is this guy?" But he was hitting threes, like didn't miss for like 4 minutes, and like I'm standing next to Eric Spoelstra. He's looking around like, "This guy's Michael Jordan." Like he literally, he's like, "You know who that looks like, right?" Like to everyone, he's like, "That's Michael Jordan," And
just to emphasize like how crazy it is, like even if you've had like a 4-hour flight, like how you feel after that flight, like to be able to step off that plane, go against the best competition in the world, and then just like head and shoulders better, like that stuff is just, those guys are just something else.
And you're 2 weeks into a training camp, but like I love him as a player, but like I don't think he has that off the court stuff, or else he'd be the face of the league right now, right? Like he's kind of a dingus off the court, and so seeing AJ, like he's kind of no nonsense. Like he's an alpha among alphas, which is like it's rare to see at that age. Like just go out there and handle business. So that was cool. He's a good kid. It was fun catching up with him for a sec. He was probably as surprised as all the other coaches when I walked in, and he was like
what are you doing here?
Like, how did you get in here? I just saw him at an event like 2 weeks ago, and he had no idea it was going to be, watching that camp. And so he was confused. That was a funny reaction, but super, super cool. And, I'm just, for me, it's kind of weird. And you can attest to this. Like, I'm not like a fan. I feel like I'm really becoming one, of BYU basketball. Like,
can I have your autograph, AJ? Like,
no, not like that.
Can you sign my jersey?
No, that actually happened to you. I witnessed you ask him for his.
Oh my gosh.
No, actually, funny story. TJ, to get some praise every once in a while, throws on his old jersey and just walks around campus. It's amazing. It's the coolest thing.
Yeah, I have to like boost my self confidence. Sometimes I wear it into work with Eric. I'm just like, I'm here, dude. It's my jersey.
Yeah, it's too loose now, though. Yours is too loose. Mine's too tight.
We have opposite problems.
Yeah, we do.
Like I did.
No, but like I feel like, man, like I know the names of these coaches. I know recruits coming in. Obviously, this last weekend helped, but like I'm excited for the Big 12. Like I had not been back to a game until this season, right? Since I had played, so it'd been 7 years, and then. And then I went to more and more games, and then now I'm like, I know the names of guys, and I'm like looking forward to different games. We're flying out to Boston to go to that game against UConn. Like, I'm stoked, and that, what that means. These guys don't know what that means, but like me being stoked and like kind of fanning this season means it's exciting, right? Because it's like everything we talk about. We're talking about the World Cup in the U.S. We're talking about concerts. We're talking about meeting celebrities, and I'm just like, I don't care. you can attest to this. I don't care. I normally don't care, but this year I think I'll care. So that's dope.
No, it's going to be fun. It's exciting. I like BYU basketball is in just a really, really like fun, cool place. And, like we've never really experienced this full spectrum of like preseason hype, and, we're preseason top 10, and it's going to be, we're playing against North Carolina and UConn and in the Garden, TD Garden, all this stuff. It's like, it is a really fun time, and we have the guys to, go make a run and do some cool things. And so it's going to be a blast. I'm looking forward to it too. It's really exciting. I'm super curious to see. I mean, everything is different on paper than it is actually on the floor. And so I'm excited to see how KY manages all this stuff and all these guys. And we have a ton of talent and a lot of scoring ability. And, that's what KY is great at. He's done that at the highest level with the best players in the whole world. Yeah. And, he's going to have to do it again this year. And I think he's going to do a great job. And I have high expectations, and I'm excited for it.
What's crazy too, and this is the last thing I'll say, and then we can wrap up, but like the BYU basketball brand is just so big. It's just out of this world right now, right? Like with the preseason, with how we finished in Big 12 and the Sweet 16, it's just it's at such a peak that was like a buzz topic with these coaches as well, right? Like I was in a car with Pope, Davis, Stoudemire, and Oates, and it just every single one of them and all the other coaches in the back room, like in between sessions, were talking about, when they figured out who I was and where I'd played, they all just talked about how crazy it was to play at BYU. Like McCaslin from Texas Tech, Tommy Lloyd obviously has experienced so many games there coming from Gonzaga, and he was telling everybody how mean the fans were. He's like, you think they're nice, but they just put on a front, and then they're really mean, which was hilarious. And then Damon Stoudemire said the same thing. And Coach Davis from UNC was like, yeah, that's all I've heard about, like, is how loud this game is going to be, even though it's going to be at the Delta Center. Like, he just knows we've got crazy fans.
Man, that'd be so fun if they were coming to the Marriott Center.
I know. I really wish. That's probably the only reason they agreed to it,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's exciting. It's fun to be a part of it. Maybe we answer these. I think we kind of answered these questions. The craziest play, if it's not the one that Ryan said, it's the one where I think it was a high school game, he went under his both legs. That was a pretty wild one. Jack Carpenter said, I sent that play to my Uber driver from 3 months ago. He too was impressed. Solid. Shout out, Jack. It's our number one fan right there. And then how do we get Yegor to the Nuggets? That would actually be fire. Can you imagine him learning directly from the European passing GOAT?
Yep.
I don't know how you get that done, but just put it into the universe and it'll happen. That's what I've learned. And then Luke Fletcher, this is probably for Ryan. Well, it is for Ryan. How do you predict BYU on the trapezoid of excellence? I mean,
we'll have to go back to him on
probably in a really good spot. Yeah, sorry, Luke. That's not a great answer, but I can guess that's what Ryan was going to say. Oh, someone jumped in. Colby Smith. Other than AJ, who are you most excited to watch next season personally? TJ, I'll let you take that one, and then we'll wrap up with this.
That's so hard to say. I feel like we have so many like different guys that I enjoy for different reasons. Like Keba just makes crazy athletic plays, and he like I coached him a little bit in high school and in some summer AAU stuff, and he had some plays where I was just like, oh my gosh, like you are just a man amongst boys, and he had, we talked about on our podcast earlier this year that his play against Iowa State was maybe one of the greatest, most athletic plays in BYU basketball history. That was something special. I'm really excited to see, how Richie comes back from having a stellar season. Sometimes it can be a little bit of a challenge to come off of like such a high season like that and just be able to back it up. But like, if Richie, he's just a dog, and he just is like, I just come to work every single day and do my job. And like, I don't think he's worried about anything else. He just goes to work. I'm I'm excited to see Rob Wright too. Like I think we have so many pieces that can come together really well, and if everyone buys into what we need to do, then we're going to be really good. And so we have a ton to be excited about. I don't know which one I'm like most excited to see, but I'm excited to see us win some games. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's a great answer. I think mine is just Rob Wright. Like I don't know if we've had a point guard quite like him, just the way he plays, and his strengths that he leans on the most. And I just feel like I kind of know the other guys, so it'll just be fun to see how he meshes, right? Versus, I feel like I have a feeling on the rest of them and the returners and how their roles are going to shake out. So Rob is a big question mark for me that I'm excited to see how it pans out. So great questions. Thank you guys for being here and interacting. This is a super good time. We're going to be on here again next week, same time. I think same day, if I'm not mistaken, with Mr. Mark Durant. We'll be talking BYU hoops, what he's up to this summer. I know he's hitting the links a lot, which TJ wishes he was doing, but I don't let him because I make him focus on things that matter, and golf doesn't matter. Golf sucks.
We have to focus on the important things one day,
like this podcast. Okay, guys, thank you. This is Washed Up. I'm Eric Mika, joined by TJ Hawes, and we'll see you next week.